Welcome to Matchbook Flashback. I am your host, Alec Ogg, and I've got this big glass jar of matchbooks that I bought at an estate sale recently. The matchbooks are all different colors and designs from all different times and places, and the strangest thing happens each time I light one of the matches. If you gaze directly into the flame, it begins to swirl, and you can see a story unfold in there, trapped like a memory in the matchbook. Let me grab one. Oh, this matchbook is all black. A very dark, deep black. And written on the back in a dim gray white, it says Hampden, Colorado. That's a neighborhood in Denver, I believe. And under the fold here, it says 2017. So it's a relatively fresh matchbook. What do you say we see what story it holds? You know the drill. When I strike this match, I need you to look deeply into the flame. Look deeply into the flame. Here we go.
I was in the Marine Corps from 2009 to 2013. After I got out of the military, moved to Colorado, tried to get into wildland firefighting. That necessarily didn't work out for me, just kind of didn't feel like it was a proper fit. I decided to move to Denver out of Fort Collins to try to go to art school because I like drawing. Figured, try my hand at that.
That's fascinating to go from Marine Corps to firefighting to the arts. I love that.
Yeah, realized that, I was just being a little haphazard with my life. And, the necessity of it wasn't really there for me. So I figured, why not do something for myself this time?
When this first one happened, you were in your firefighting stage or art stage? Which stage was this?
This would be the art stage.
Would I be able to, in the description, just to kind of include, like, the Marine Corps thing, or do you want to keep that out?
You can put the Marine Corps stuff in there. Mainly because I feel like it's a good basis due to, I've been around high-tech stuff before, and even seeing this, it was just, completely abnormal.
Yeah, so you're familiar with the United States' equipment.
Yeah, I've been around drones before. I've been around jets and everything. It's just, if it was military tech, that's something I'd never seen before. This instance I had was in the Hampden neighborhood of Denver in the fall of 2017. So I had watched like a few UFO documentaries. I had heard about a couple different guys like Dr. Stephen Greer and their whole C-35 program. And what really interested me was the whole connection of consciousness. So when I was living at my apartment, I was just taking my dog on evening walks and kind of just doing affirmations to myself, being like, oh, I want to know the truth, or just kind of, I didn't expect anything of it, obviously, because it's just like, you're talking to yourself for just a walk around the apartment complex. And just so happened that probably so it was 11:59 at night, and my dog is getting right next to a sacred tree that's right next to my apartment, and I'm just letting him just do his final business, and I kind of just step away for a second, and I'm looking right between the two different buildings in my complex, and just so the reason why I was looking up at the sky was it was nice. It had just rained a couple hours ago, and the clouds kind of low, kind of reflecting off the city lights, and just right as I'm looking up, coming out of the clouds is this huge, massive black craft. And yeah, I'm not even too sure how to describe how fast it was going, or propulsion at least, but it was just making a straight line, not even deviating from its path, just straight forward. And as it comes over, I'm just looking at it, seeing this huge white outline on the craft. It's got a white outline, and then about four little white globes just kind of underneath it, illuminated. And as it kind of keeps going, I look at the back of this thing, or what I kind of perceived it to be the back, because it's got these like a heat sink from a computer part, where it's just these little fins coming off the back, and you can see the fins individually due to the fact that it was also illuminated.
Are you saying fins?
If I am.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, it garbled a little bit, and I just wanted to make sure I was picturing it correctly.
For sure. Yeah, and I just stood there and watched it just creep. I don't know, it was this very fast feeling pace, but it didn't feel like it was moving that fast. It was just I guess, nothing kind of resembles the speed it was going. And I just watched it for a couple minutes, just cruise on over the buildings, and just kind of disappeared over the horizon.
You said this was at almost around midnight?
Yes.
Okay. And what kind of...
Sorry, I got that.
Oh, no, it's fine. I do too. What kind of affirmations were you saying to yourself, or what were you thinking kind of in that consciousness mindset you were talking about?
So it's kind of the affirmations I was talking about were I kind of I want to be my higher self. I like the idea of a higher consciousness kind of merging into one. So I was you know what? Why not try it out? I'm not really doing much with my time anyway, so it's just a nice something to take my time to do while I'm taking my dogs on a walk. So it's just I want to be my higher self. I want to know the truth, and kind of just repeating iterations of just those two things.
You said there was low clouds?
Yeah, it had just rained, so the clouds weren't necessarily super high up, high altitude, kind of just if there were skyscrapers around, you would see the clouds, or the skyscrapers just kind of jutting up through them. And
the craft, did it come just straight down through the clouds?
No, actually, it just emerged from it in a horizontal path.
So it was below the cloud cover already?
Yeah, or just within the clouds. It didn't deviate from its height. It was just a straight line.
If it was at ground level and you were just staring at it, how big do you think it was?
When I was looking at it, I thought to myself, this has got to be bigger than a 747 wingspan for sure.
Okay. So hundreds of feet big?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you think it could kind of fit on top of a football field and cover most of the football field kind of thing?
I think so. At least a good portion of it.
And did it reflect off the cloud at all?
No. The crazy thing was just the outline of the craft was illuminated, as well as the back end and the circles and spheres underneath. and then the craft itself was just pitch black.
Did it make any noise?
No, that was the craziest thing. Because, you know, being that close, as low as it was, I was expecting something to come out of it, but nothing more than just like the city ambience, you know, traffic noises, that kind of stuff.
Did you feel any sensations in your body when it was around?
I don't know if I had any of those. Just kind of just stuck there in awe, I would say.
Yeah, what's kind of your inner monologue when you're seeing this? What are you thinking?
To be a little crass, just, oh shit.
Was it associated with fear?
I think fear came later. It was just like, just a certain sense of like, whoa.
I'm really grateful that you made this awesome animation of what it looked like, because it really helps. And I'll link it in the show notes if that's cool with you, so that people can see it. But my question's sort of based off of this rendering you made, which is, it almost looks like flat, as in if it tilted its angle, it would be like invisibly flat, like a piece of paper. Like,
yeah, I did not feel like it had like much volume, I would say, to the whole craft. Like, it didn't, at least from when I was looking up at it, I didn't think that I would be seeing like there was more to it on top of it.
Did it feel like if it was on the ground and you were looking at it, it would only be about like 3 feet thick? Or what was your impression of its thickness?
Due to its size and from what I was seeing, yeah, it was maybe 10 feet. Not super thick, just very, very thin feeling.
Okay. I guess it's midnight, so there's probably not a lot of people around, but did anybody else mention it?
No. Well, that's the thing, is like, I had always heard, like, you know, the whole like Men in Black theories and everything, and it's just like, I don't know if I ever want to bring it up to people, just because it's just like, you know, I didn't want that kind of flack, people showing up my door kind of thing.
Right.
I had looked at the news for like, you know, a couple days afterwards, and nothing. And what surprised me, because I was just like, it was super blatant. Like, if you had just looked up, you'd be able to see it. My apartment complex was near the main highway that kind of rolls through Denver. But I would expect, you know, more people to have seen it due to the fact that it was like, it had come pretty much straight across that highway area.
So it was going through a really busy area of Denver.
Yeah.
And did you feel like it was being propelled by those little fins on the back?
I felt it could be due to the fact that it just had that nice white glow to the back of it. Mainly because from what I was able to see of it, that was the only place that would look like an engine.
And it was moving with those little fins kind of to the back, like as if it was being propelled from that back part.
Yeah. That, to me, that's what I could take from it. I've been close to airplanes before, and at that distance, you know, you should be able to hear a huge thrust of engines if it's that close. But nothing more than just that nice glow coming off of it. Like when you're looking at a jet engine on a jet fighter, they've got that nice little kind of a cone-like thrust coming off of it. You know, I expected to like see something like that for like the speed that it was moving, but just same little glow, no like flashes or like, you know, pulsing of it. It was just that same color the whole time.
Did it leave any glow behind it?
No, no tracing at least. For me, it was just, it showed up and then it just kind of kept on coming through the clouds, just like, you know, this is just normal stuff for it.
And the circular lights that were underneath it, did they look flat or did they look 3D like they were?
They looked flat.
Okay.
Flat, but just like, you know, a nice little glow off of it.
Would you describe the light as just white?
Yes, off-white, kind of like a little grayish, but for sure white.
Okay. And was the light moving or swirling at all?
Just the same, like, if you're like looking at a fluorescent light, just the same tone, I guess, all across the way.
Okay. And the black, did it look like this ship was made of a black painted metal, or did it almost look like a complete absence of light?
I would say the latter, with a complete absence of light. I could see the glow coming off of it, and that's where I could tell that, you know, there was things on it. But if it didn't have the lights on it, I probably wouldn't have been able to see it.
And the entire outline was also glowing?
Yes. If you were to put a white line on a triangle, like on the outside of the triangle, that's just what it would be, just the white line.
Okay. Did your dog react at all?
No, he was busy doing his own thing.
Anything else about that specific encounter that you feel like is a detail that stands out in your mind?
Not necessarily. It was just, you know, I just happened to let my dog take his final leak, just kind of like stood off to the side and just kind of wanted to look up at the clouds, and then just out of nowhere, hear that thing come. And I just get to sit and watch it for what I feel is a couple minutes, and just kind of like, my mind's kind of just like racing through the whole, like, you know, does anyone else see this? Does, you know, what does this mean? I remember like hustling back into the house and just telling my wife and just like, hey, can we lock all the doors, lock all the windows, just make sure everything's secure? Just kind of trying to reconcile the whole event happening.
You said it took like a couple minutes, actually?
Yeah, because the speed was just, like, it was just cruising right along, but it felt like it was moving fast, but at the slowest rate possible. That's what really bugged me. It was just like, it felt like it was moving really fast, but at the same time, not really even moving fast at all. It was hard to explain due to the fact that I don't think I've seen similar speeds.
Yeah, so would you say the way it moved, this speed and this time, was unusual to anything you'd seen in your life?
Yeah, definitely.
Because I'm just trying to picture it in my head, and I know we're butting up against things that might not be able to be explained, so I understand that. But so you felt like you had an impression that it was moving really fast, but also it was there for a few minutes.
Yeah, like it was, you know, it was just cruising along out of the clouds, and just, it felt like, you know, when you looked at it, it was moving fast, but it took a couple minutes for it to get fully across the horizon.
What did you explain this? Did you tell your wife? Did you tell anybody about this when you saw it?
I told my wife because I just kind of like walked into the bedroom. She was sitting on the bed reading her book, and I'm just, you know, making sure all the windows are locked, and she's just like, what's the issue? And I was just like, I don't know. I just saw something that I don't think I should have seen. So my wife is always privy to everything that I see. Only like maybe once or twice was she able to see a couple different things at the same time that I was seeing it.
Okay. And so how did she react this first time when she's in bed reading the book?
Just kind of like nonchalant. She's like, okay, babe, you know, do your thing.
Okay. And were you locking the doors and windows because in your mind, like, this could be the beginning of the movie where they're taking over or something like that?
I didn't feel like, you know, it was like an invasion or something like that. It was just, I guess, a way for me to feel a semblance of security, a semblance of control.
And you described it as seeing something you weren't supposed to see. Can you explain why you describe it that way?
It was just, you know, it felt alien. It felt, you know, completely out of the normal. Seeing something like that would just be, you know, it it felt like an everyday occurrence, but at the same time, it's just like that's different. That's not normal.
You said like a fear set in afterwards?
Yeah, just I want to say it's like a way of my brain trying to my brain or whatever you call it, just trying to kind of come to terms and grasp the reality of the situation.
So, do you feel like we've covered that first one pretty well? Is there any other details you feel like we missed?
I don't necessarily think so. It was just I happened to be looking at the right place at the right time, I guess.
And so then, and I'm not sure how many encounters you have, but I'm looking at the like GIF animation you made of that. Was that the second one?
Yeah, the one that one happened to be the closest thing that I've ever been close to.
Okay, yeah. So can you fully set that up for me? What that night was like leading up to it?
So what I remember, I had to go to the grocery store and I just pick up something in the evening, maybe energy drink. I wasn't necessarily going for a big load of groceries. And as I'm, walking out to the carport, I'm kind of thinking to myself, being like, I saw that a couple of days ago, just kind of wondering if I'm going to see anything else. And I get to my car and I just kind of think to myself, one last look. I kind of like sidestep out of the carport. And as I'm looking up into the sky, it felt like in an instant, from high altitude, this craft just descends like a yo-yo. What's the yo-yo trick called? Like walk the dog, where you throw it down and then it kind of just like stops midair and then kind of just rotates.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of feeling I had from it afterwards. So it just drops from high altitude, about 10, 15 feet above my head. And one thing that I wasn't able to get into that animation because I'm pretty, I'm just trying to learn how to do animation, so I wasn't able to get everything correct with it. But when it dropped, I was able to see the fins on it, the ones with the three little globes.
Yeah.
Apologies. It gets me a little nervous talking about it.
Yeah, take your time.
But so what I remember seeing is that as soon as it stopped a couple feet above my head, the fins looked like it was just gossamer, like a really thin-like material. So I could see the wave. Like if air hit it, you would see it like billowing in the wind.
You're saying that the structure was kind of ripply?
Yeah, like I'm trying to best way to describe it, like a little like flow, like a little wave to it. But that wave maybe lasted for like a couple of seconds, or like maybe like microseconds, I guess. But as soon as I saw that ripple, it straightened into like this really hard like material. So like no ripple, like a little ripple, and then bam, just like static movement to straight hard like material.
Wow.
And so I see it ripple, and then as I'm just kind of staring up at it, it like lingers there for like maybe 10 seconds or so, and then all I can see it is just like a butterfly knife just kind of like folds its back end together, and it just shoots off right across the way over past the grocery store that I was heading to.
And so for the listeners, I'm going to include your animations in the show notes, but I'm thinking for the listeners who haven't seen those or clicked those yet, can you describe to the best of your ability what the shape of the craft looks like when it first comes down at you?
Yeah. Okay. So if you're looking at a like a ceiling fan, you have that central hub with just 3 blades on it, and each blade has 3 white lights on it, evenly spaced out towards the tip. All right, so central hub with light on it, and then 3 blades with 3 lights on each blade. And I couldn't tell exactly what would be considered the front end or the back end of the craft. My only guess was it kind of made itself apparent when it folded itself 2 blades to the back and then 1 blade forward, and then it just instantaneous acceleration with 2 blades behind, 1 blade forward, and that was the direction it took.
Yeah, so for the listeners, we kind of have the ceiling fan shape and then the butterfly knife shape or action of it where the back 2 fins fold in and then it shoots off.
Exactly that.
And did they fold in together where they were side by side, or did they go on top of each other?
No, side by side.
Okay. And the rest of the color of the ship is just black?
Yeah. Of all the crafts that I've seen, the 2 major ones, the one in the illustration that I put in plus the animation, both the same kind of black material. Just straight black, nothing kind of like coming off of it.
And how big do you think this one was? Because you said it came within 10 feet of you or so?
Yeah, so not super big. I would say about like a Suburban size, maybe a little bit larger than that.
Do you feel like this one had some volume to it at all? Like we were discussing how the last one maybe was about 10 feet thick. Do you have a sense of how thick this one was?
Thinner than that. I want to say closer to where you're like 3, not even 3 feet thick, maybe a little thinner than that. The central hub from where the blades themselves came off of probably was a little bit thicker, but the blades themselves were pretty darn thin.
What are you thinking when you see this second one?
Well, because I had been thinking to myself, was just talking to myself, being like, I wonder if I'm going to see anything else tonight. And that added with just, it happened to be right around the same time that I'm thinking that. That kind of just pushed me more into the whole idea of consciousness being a little more connected to those kind of things.
Yeah, so it felt like you maybe beckoned it in some kind of way?
Back in, and at the same time, a little bit more of it felt like a joke, being like, oh, you want to see something? Here you go.
You felt like it dropped from altitude at like a really fast speed, right?
Yeah, I don't think I saw it originally from where it descended from. It just increased in size, just like that. It felt like it descended and came into view just like that.
And was there any sound?
No, another one of those silent. No hums, no nothing. Or at least I don't have any sound that I can associate with it.
And were the lights underneath it, did they have any difference to the first craft?
No, they had the very, very similar whitish gray, illuminated but dull at the same time. Not really like a bright light. Just kind of it's illuminated but not really. Like if you were to put a light on a dimmer switch,
yeah,
and kind of just drop it down to its lowest point.
And so this is you're in your carport, but before you go to the grocery store, or when you got back from the grocery store?
Yeah, so before I went to the grocery store, I had because I was thinking to myself, just I wonder if I'm going to see anything else tonight. Get to my car, and I'm just like, you know what? Screw it. Just one more look up at the clouds, and then as I'm stepping out of the carport and looking up, here it comes.
And what are you feeling when you see this second one?
Just shock in the instant. I don't think I was fearful of anything. It's just there it was, and then it just shot off.
And it was so low, it's like low enough where did you feel like if you would have been on a ladder, you could have touched it?
Yeah, if I like had a rock next to me and I just kind of like, if I were to like toss it up, I feel like I would have been able to easily toss it up and like ding it off the craft if it were that close.
Man. And so when it shot off, was it going in a direction where it had a clear path? Like it wasn't going to go straight through a tree or anything?
Yeah, it was just above the houses.
And that rippling softness to the structure, what do you make of that? It going from that soft rippliness to then hardening into a structure?
I'm not even too sure myself. What it reminds me of is Batman Begins. The scene where Morgan Freeman and Christian Bale are talking about the Batman suit, and they've got this like how they use like electroshock to make the material from like a soft wing-like material to a thick, like structurally sound.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Do you have any lightweight fabrics?
You know, I think I have just the thing. It's called memory cloth. Notice anything? Regularly flexible. But put a current through it. Molecules realign, becomes rigid.
What kind of shapes can you make?
Can be tailored to fit in any structure based on a rigid skeleton.
So that's all I could think of coming to mind of what I could even associate it with. Just like, it's, nice and billowy, and then bam, right into that thick material, I guess.
Once it leaves, what goes through your mind?
I don't necessarily know if I had much thought on it other than just like, well, that was coincidental.
Did you smell anything?
No, no smells. Same thing with the noise, just nothing.
Okay, and no any sensations of like static or goosebumps or anything like that?
I think goosebumps in the fact that it like just having it show up right in that instant, but having like any other connection than just like the sensation of it showing up and getting goosebumps from that. That's kind of like all I remember.
And did you have any other sort of the same way your intuition was saying like, hey, why don't you take a second look? Did you have any other kind of intuitive inner dialogue?
No, it was just like, just kind of thinking to myself, just like, well, I saw that big, huge triangle craft, if that's showing up in this area, why not keep looking? And, am I going to get lucky enough to see something like that again?
And do you feel like these two craft were associated with each other?
Only by association of the fact that they had the same kind of like black like material for the craft, and then those illuminated lights. And
it was within how many days of each other?
I want to say a few days. I can't remember exactly the time span.
you tell your wife about that second one, or anybody that had a reaction?
Well, I started telling my friends because it's just like, I can't really keep this secret. But you're always hit with, like, oh, that's cool, dude. Quit smoking that weed. And it's just like, okay, yeah, but I wasn't smoking at that time, so you can't really, associate it with that.
Yeah, did you ever second guess yourself, or were you just 100% sure on this?
For those guys, I couldn't really second guess myself just because it was super blatant. Just showed up right as I was looking at it. I've had psychedelic experiences before, but nothing more than like, looking at your hand and it kind of looking wavy. But, for like visuals, nothing comes close. It felt super specific. I remember being like a little downtrodden because I like sci-fi. I like spaceships, and more to the point, I like spaceships with like designs to them, hot rod style, that kind of stuff. And I don't know, I kind of guess it made me a little depressed because it's just like the craft that I had seen just looked like they lacked imagination.
Yeah, you're an artist. You're like, I wish they had a cooler design.
Yeah, it's just like, it's just like, oh gosh, if people got this technology and like, why not give it some flair? It's just triangles and ceiling fans.
Has this changed the way you look at things at all?
Absolutely. Or not necessarily like, a definitive. It just lets me be more skeptical, I guess, or be accepting of more out there ideas. Because like after like all those occasions, like I just had to kind of sit there with myself and be like, okay, if that's real, what else is?
Well, as you can see, the match has gone out. And as the smoke clears, I hope you enjoyed that UFO encounter from Colorado. If you really liked it, perhaps you could text a link of this episode to a friend so they can share that journey too. Another easy way to support this show is to give us a 5-star rating. It only takes one click, and it really helps this young show grow. All that aside, I appreciate you stopping by, and I hope you return next week, because I have another match to light.